Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this Atta Webinar with ResRequest. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the team that are going to be presenting to you today. We have Natasha Bame. Natasha heads up communications in the sales and marketing team at ResRequest, South African-based software company specializing in central reservation and property management solutions for large remote lodge destinations, boutique hotels, and multi-property groups. Natasha is the project manager for ResConnect, ResRequest's interface, product, and will be presenting on the online options available through ResConnect. ResRequest operates in 14 African countries and connects central reservations directly to hundreds of travel agents and tour operators. Joining her for the Q&A session is Jill Bennett-Howes, founder and director of ResRequest. Jill and her business partner's goal is to use technology to facilitate travel to remote destinations. Jill has been involved in online booking trends in Africa for more than a decade and understands the business requirements, suppliers, direct consumers, and booking agents. So at this stage, I'll hand over to Natasha, who's going to take over from here.
Thanks, Chris, for that introduction.
Can our attendees confirm that we can hear us? Great, okay, I believe that everyone can now hear us. So Natasha, I'll hand back over to you, and apologies for that small problem there.
Okay, let's try again. Welcome, everybody. Thanks, Chris, for the introduction. I hope that everyone can hear me now. Welcome and thanks for joining us. We trust that today's webinar will be interesting and insightful as you hear about the connections that are available to ResRequest customers in this space, and you'll hear the opinions from agents, partners, and our customers. I'll be leading you through this session, and we'll start with an introduction to ResRequest's online sales options. And then we'll move our focus to why connections are important to the trade. We'll spice things up even more when each of our panelists respond to questions that we've put forward to them. Questions that address what makes connections so important to their business model. A few housekeeping items before we start. When our panelists start to respond to the questions I've posed, we'll open the text message area at the bottom left-hand side of your browser window, and you can post your questions there. We'll be answering these questions at the end in our question and answer session. A good internet connection is required for you to hear and see this webinar clearly. And if you find your connection lets you down, a recording will be available afterwards. It's also advised that you use a headset. Panelists, can I remind you to make sure that you're on mute and that your cursor is off the slides until you are ready to talk. Okay. Let's begin. We'll start with the basics. The screen you're looking at now shows room inventory on ResRequest's availability calendar. Your inventory is set up in ResRequest and adjusts as your team books, blocks, and cancels bookings. This means ResRequest is your inventory hub, and we see it as our responsibility to make sure that your sales partners can easily check your availability and rates and make bookings. So let's talk a bit about who those sales partners are. Just going to wait 1 second just to see if we're still struggling with the sound. Okay. When you implement an online sales strategy, you should consider 3 target markets. They're your direct customers who enjoy shopping on your site. They're agents who would like to buy and sell your product and who prefer instant response rather than a delayed communication with your reservations office. And thirdly, the mass market online travel agents like Expedia and Booking.com who depend on online responsiveness. For today's webinar, we're focusing on what's available for agent connections, but we'd like to highlight that connections for direct online customers are a priority for us. We're constantly upgrading our booking plugin ResNova and enhancing our booking form, which are ideal tools for this sector. Our booking tools for direct customers give your online guests the ability to book directly from your website. They get an instant response and results, which is what online shoppers are looking for. For online travel agent sites, we support a connection to Expedia, which is further extended to hotel.com and venere.com. Our connection to booking.com is complete. However, it's currently in the certification process with them. We also support hundreds of online travel agent platforms via channel managers. But these are not the only agents who work with online programs. Traditional trade agents have extended their business models to online bookings to ensure that they're able to capture guests. And these agents specialize in these areas, which makes shopping a breeze for customers looking for an experience-based trip. And this is definitely a market that you should be working with. How can you work with this market? Well, through these direct electronic connections we're talking about today. So we've touched on direct and online travel agent connections, the OTAs. Now we'll focus the remainder of our time on agent connections. One of the great features of ResRequest is that it's a cloud-hosted application. It means that you can give your agent a login and they can check your inventory rates and make bookings. It's a manual connection, but something you absolutely should support. Systems. But what about agents that do have an in-house software application? These agents don't want to be routed to a manual login or rerouted to different websites to find out rates, check availability, or secure bookings. These agents have implemented in-house solutions to be competitive in the online space. To have that competitive edge, they need instant access to availability and rates for quick quoting, and they need to be able to make a booking to close the sale before their customers go Googling. They need to bypass the human interaction at the transaction level. Many of these agents also extend their booking services to a web interface, offering a B2B2C platform. And this is to ensure that they can service online shoppers much like the OTAs, but with their specialized knowledge and skills translated into their website. We generally see that agents with high volume profiles have automated in-house and online solutions, and you can work with these agents by giving them electronic access so that they can connect their system to your ResRequest system. We have electronic connections to over 40 specialist agents and online travel agents, and the list is growing. The slide just names a few of them. So how do these connections work? An API, which is an application program, is simply an interface that allows two systems to communicate with each other. So with our API and some custom development, we are able to connect your ResRequest system to your agent's in-house system. And if you are still asking yourself, why would my agents need an electronic connection? A reminder of the two strongest motivators. The first is specialist agents now incorporate an online model so that they can attract travelers 24/7, essentially competing with OTAs like Booking.com and Expedia. This model needs an automated booking engine in order to satisfy their online shop. To support automation, connections are needed. The second reason agents need connections is that some agents have implemented an in-house system to speed up their business processes. Their holy grail is fast quoting and sale closure. By implementing a connection, agents can generate sales for you more easily, which means you keep doing business with them. A question I'm often asked is, can I control what these connections can see and do in our system? The answer is absolutely. Each connection is linked to a user that you create in ResRequest with controlled access. Now that you have a understanding of AGX connections, I'd like to introduce you to our panel, which is comprised of many connection expertise. I don't think all of them are, but most of them are there. So we'll just crack on. We have joining us from the trade, agents Craig van Rooyen from Tour d'Afrique. And I see online we have Chris Mcintyre from Expert Africa. We also have joining us from our technology, Terry Boshoff from Where To. And then we're really excited to have two of our customers who are pioneers with the online connections. Currently only see one, unfortunately. So we'll introduce you, Nicole from the Elawana collection. And then lastly on the screen is Jill and myself representing ResRequest. Great, so to start our panel session, each of our agent panelists will respond to the questions that I've posed to them. This is what we asked them. What's changed to make online sales more important? Agents need to see availability rates and make bookings. What are the essential components for connections to work for you? And what frustrations do you have with the industry or technology? So Craig will kick us off with a brief intro and respond to these questions. Craig, let me know when you're ready for your slide. Over to you.
Sorry, can you hear me? Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, Craig, we can hear you.
Me, no. Sorry. Use mic, sorry. Hello?
Hi, Craig. We can hear you well.
Okay. Sorry, I could not hear my voice at all. Hi, everybody. I'm ready to proceed. I'm one of the owners of Tour d'Afrique, and we've been involved with online access to for our agents for the last 5 years. We've tried multiple systems, and at the moment, about 5 years ago, we we went with tour plan, and it was great to see around about 2 years ago that ResRequest obviously connected to tour plan. And I just thought I'd give you guys an idea of the sort of volumes that we are now looking at with regards to online availability. We only work on a B2B basis, so we're working directly only with the trade. And we have a combination of agents that are using our web portals as well as our APIs. And this first slide that has just come up now, thank you, Natasha, it's just a great example of what's happened over the last 3 years. So in 2015, and as more and more product has come online, you'll see we've also increased the number of searches online. So if you look at 2015, we did about 120,000 searches online. That is looking for availability within TourPlan itself. So our consultants are using the system. We then have a web application where agents can log on and look at online availability and book. And thirdly, some of our clients take a direct XML into their system where they can look for availability and book. So you'll see there's been a tremendous increase from 2015 of 120,000 lookups to the figure in 2017 is distorted because at the moment these figures were up until the 1st of June 2017. So you can see the percentage increases have been quite dramatic on the online space with regards to our business looking for online availability. You'll also notice that the number of bookings that we've made since 2015 have increased also dramatically. And again, the numbers for 2017 are only for the first 6 months of the year. So there are a couple of reasons for this. Obviously, the ease of use for looking for availability. And the other reason is that there's been a huge increase in business over the last 18 months. And primary reservation centers have really been swamped with inquiries. And the turnaround time has been incredibly slow, and sometimes being able to turn around quotes to clients has taken days, as opposed to in the past where we could do it virtually on the same day or within 48 hours, depending on the time zone. So I thought I'd just share that slide with you because I think it really shows where we are heading. And by staffing it up correctly or providing this technology, you will not need as many reservation staff if we have the full access to your back-end systems. I think I need to basically now just proceed and try and answer all questions that you posed us. And basically, we are operating in many time zones internationally. And the consumer has access to all various online portals, so they expect the same turnaround time from travel agents and tour operators as when they shop on their own via different websites. So the consumer has become a lot more savvy, and they expect us to come to the party and turn around quotes and pricing a lot quicker than we used to. Hence the access is very important. There's also been, due to the limited availability, there's been an increase for us looking in specific geographic regions now for availability. So in the past, when we used to just search on one particular product, we'll now go into a specific geographic region and call up 10 or 12 different products looking for availability so we can turn around the quotes a lot quicker. And that has changed dramatically where, as I said in the past, we used to maybe just focus on that one product. But over the last 18 months, this has become possible. Second question you asked is, why do agents need to see availability, rates, and bookings? Agents have a particular liking to specific products that they wish to book, and at times will build their itinerary around that availability of a particular product, so they can hold and book it if it's available. So you all have your regular agents that really support your product, and I've seen it time and time again where they will be very au fait with that specific product, and they will build their whole itinerary around it. And hence, to see a live availability and be able to hold it and then build the rest of the itinerary around it is critical to them. The industry is also slowly moving to bar rates. I know ResRequest is not there yet, and a lot of lodges have not moved into that area. basically, through that whole process, we are able to show the agent the STO rates as well as the bar rates if STO has been closed out. And thus, in order to look at bar rates, you actually have to have a live booking facility to actually hold the rate. We cannot quote on bar rates because they could change tomorrow, and hence we have to be able to hold and book it. And whether you treat that as a provisional booking or as a confirmed booking, it will depend on your business processes. But in future, we will have to hold that booking. What are the essential components for connections to work for you? We need live availability and to be able to book a room. I know there are many people at this stage that only like to show the availability, but honestly, we need to be able to book the room as well. Many properties show live availability, but they will not allow us to book, and that just goes against the grain when so many other websites have got that facility to book. What frustrations do we have with the industry or technology? Operators need to open their inventory to different room types. It makes no sense to only offer 1 or 2 rooms on a standard room basis and not allow the tour operator access to upsell to higher room categories. Time and time again, we see only maybe standard rooms are being made available due to the number of rooms that lodge may have in the standard category, and we don't have access to the suites or the family rooms or the essential other offers that we could really upsell to the client. If you're going to allow an online availability check, you need to allow us to make bookings. Otherwise, this defeats the whole object of playing the online space. You have the option to treat each booking as a provisional based on how you run your business, and thus free up your reservation staff from how to respond to requests daily, as they would rather be following up on potential bookings, which makes more business sense to me. I think that's all I have for now, and maybe we'll take part in the question and answer session later.
Thanks for that, Craig. We found Erica. Erica is from New Frontiers, and she's joining our panel. Erica has some of her operator screens to share with us. Erica, are you there and ready to respond? You just unmute your microphone. Okay, Erica's typing. It seems like it's loading now, Erica. You are in the presenter zone.
Right, it should be on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, great, thanks. Take it away.
Perfect, thanks. Sorry, I have had a few internet issues as well, so it has been dropping. I hope I don't drop during the middle of this presentation. I think that as from New Frontiers point of view, I look after the rates and contracts for New Frontiers, but one of my biggest focuses has been driving the online connectivity. And similar to your last presenter, we're also on tour plan. I don't have the slides to show the growth, but we are also experiencing a very rapid growth in terms of usability of these online connections. So I think a lot of my issues will probably be exactly the same, but I'll just go through the various points as well. And Natasha had a couple of slides up there. I'm not too sure if you can see them, but I'll go through those at the end of the questions as well. So just to start with what's changed to make online sales more important, for us it's really about maximizing our resources by improving efficiencies and enhancing our service delivery to our clients. As our consultants are able to work in our own reservation system without having to go into third-party sites to check availability and book, we only have to input the input the booking details once, so it's quicker and it reduces potential on errors. So often they can make a typing mistake, they put a correct in our system, go on to another system and book it for a totally different date. We're able to give an instant response to our customer, so really improving our service and thus ability to close the booking. Because we can improve our service, more chance we've got of closing the booking. So it works for the suppliers as well as for us. And for the suppliers, there really is an increased opportunity for a potential sale by showing availability. Our clients and consultants are selecting products by what is available as they can complete a sale quicker and more efficiently. So they'll search by a particular area and they'll go through and they'll choose a particular product by what is showing available. If you have no online link, you could lose out on some opportunity there. Just in terms of the stats, as a business, we have seen that the suppliers that we do have an online link with have seen an above average growth in sales. And from our point of view in terms of growth, our sales growth is way above the increase in the relative cost of staff. So we are not having to grow our staff as much as sales growth shows that we should do. So per person, each consultant is able to handle more volume per member. So it really has shown incredible effectiveness for us and continues to do so. Why do agents need to see availability? Well, pretty much as I've said, all of the above. Just bear in mind that we do deal with multiple options, single itinerary. So we cannot quote and propose on product unless we know that it is available. It's pointless to prepare an itinerary or quote and then propose that to the client. They come back and say, yes, please book. It's not available and we have to start the process all over again. So it's very time consuming for everyone. Online availability just makes us far more efficient. What are the essential components for connections to work for you? It really is about reliability. If the availability shown must be accurate and reliable, and once confirmed, it must be honored. It's not very often, but occasionally we've had availability reflected, we've confirmed the booking, and then I've come back and said, whoops, sorry, they forgot to update and the room is not available. It needs what frustrations do you have with the industry or technology? For us, currently, it's limited only to a look and a book. I know earlier it was mentioned as well that certainly with a lot of the ResRequest customers, they want a look only. Booking is absolutely essential. We are pending the development to allow for amendment as well. So at the moment, the look and book works great. There can be some confusion occasionally when there's an amendment. It basically means we're cancelling a booking and rebooking again, and sometimes there can be a little bit of confusion. Reliability, as I spoke, it's not common, but there are occasional glitches. These things happen. It's how it's handled and how we move forward with it. I'm finding management of the connections is also fairly consuming, so really need the supplier connections to match what our contractual agreements are. I particularly refer to things like minimum stays, etc., where our rate may have a minimum stay attached to it, but it's not loaded on the API. That can cause a few problems. Or a supplier updates something on the API that we don't necessarily know, that results in some change that we need to do on the setup on this side. So we find that we're constantly having to go through and sort of audit the system the whole time, and that is quite time consuming, but really worthwhile in the end, at the end of the day, to have the booking functionality. The slides that Natasha included was really just to reflect the ease of using the systems for our consultants and then also for our clients. So it's just to show how our consultant would see something in the system, how easy it is just to click on what is available and book with the click of one button. So you'll see there that at the top is our what we call our internal contracted rate option. They can use it if they're just doing a quote and they don't necessarily want to book or hold anything. And underneath that first line is all of the rooms that are pulling through from the API. They can choose a specific room, click on it, click on the book button, and that's it, it's done. We get a confirmation number and it's in our system as confirmed. This is just an example of what our customers would see when they log into our system from the back end on their side. Again, they're able to search either by location or by a specific property. They can choose whether they see it by availability only, in other words, show only what is showing available, or they can show everything. And they can see in terms of rate and room availability. So again, should there be multiple rates associated with that, that would all pull through, and that includes bar rates. So if a property does have a bar rate strategy and STO is blocked out for whatever reason, bar could be showing available, or alternatively, they could maybe have a special offered on the bar rate that is below the STO rate. We're able to select for the customer the best available option at the time of booking. So again, I think any further things that come through, I'm happy to handle on a question and answer session, but hopefully that gives some indication of why these supplier connectivities are becoming not important, but really critical in our business going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica, for that. That's great to see those screens as well. We always get asked the question, what does it look like on the other side? And that's always been insightful for a lot of our customers. So next up, we have Chris Mcintyre. And Chris has been as now an expert in connections. Over to you, Chris.
I think you've still got me on voice and you need to switch over to Chris.
Oh. Okay, can everybody hear? Hello, hello, hello. Everybody here? Yes, I've got a couple of yeses there. Okay, thanks very much for that intro, Jill. Much appreciated. I'll try and live up to it. For those of you who don't know me, I run a UK-based company called Expert Africa. We're sending about 2,000 people a year, 2,200 this year, to Africa on trips. And we like to try and keep abreast of the technical world and regard ourselves as fairly tech savvy. We've been connected to ResRequest and many of their clients for some years. We're stronger across Namibia, Botswana, Zambia, and Tanzania probably than we are in South Africa, and we tend to be more remote, high-end lodge locations. We've got about 16 consultants here in the UK. I've also got one in Cape Town, one in Windhoek, one in New Zealand, one in San Francisco, and we're going more overseas these days. So it's quite a spread out team that require very much cloud-based systems for communication. Having been doing this well over 20 years, I'd say the business has changed an awful lot. 20 years ago, we could get away with faxing itineraries and 3 or 4 days and reservations, and 3 or 4 days later you get responses. These days, everything is much faster. It's a very competitive business. We've got a lot of very good competitors in the UK and elsewhere, and efficiency is really important in what we do. We never intend that to take away from the expert advice that we give our clients and the careful tailor making we do, but being efficient with our administration is critical. And increasingly, especially in the last 4, 5, 6 years, with millennials starting to book, with everyone getting used to social media, TripAdvisor, Booking.com, people are expecting almost instant responses. Gone are the days when people sent an email and waited 3 or 4 days to see if you responded. Sometimes today we get people sending an email in the morning and then they will phone in the afternoon and say, why haven't you responded? So it's increasingly important for our business to be fast. I'd say that speed of response is one of the key factors behind winning a piece of business. A good response sent really fast looks keen and efficient for the traveller and really helps us to win that business. I think over time everything's going more online, and the expectation is for more instant information. Everybody in the market there has at least seen the OTAs, the online travel agents, the Booking.com, the Expedias, and even if they don't book with them, they know that that information is available out there. So even in specialist markets, they're expecting that. Now, we might all say that the OTA's main business is 200-room large hotels, but the clients are also expecting an amount of information quite fast for 10 and 20-room small camps. And hence, Natasha, if you could flick up that slide of online availability, on our website these days, we actually include a page for many of our camps, giving an idea of what's available for the clients. This isn't meant as a booking tool, it is just meant as a taster, but it does show our clients that we're up to speed and we know what's there and what's not. I think interestingly, some listeners might realise that more of our competitors use that sometimes than clients. We have a lot of competitors we know using that website. Slightly annoying, but what can you do about it? What you see there on our website is just a taster. We've got a much more comprehensive back end used by our team, which saves us a massive amount of time. And what we do is we import availability data for many, many lodges and hotels and camps across Africa. And we have that at the fingertips of our team. And that allows them to make much, much quicker calls on what's possible. So in about 20 or 30 seconds, they can bring up an itinerary with the lodges they're looking at, and for the majority of the lodges we deal with, we get an instant view of whether that's available or not. I've got to say that at the moment, for the mostly small lodges we're dealing with, seeing availability is much more important to us than actually having rates on that data or being able to book online. And the reason for that is our team will often do half a dozen different iterations of trips for clients before they finally book. And we will look at the availability before we quote, but then we'll often only make a reservation actually when they're booking. And I can appreciate the nerves of a lodge owner who doesn't want to open up their small lodge's inventory to dozens of overseas agents and it get held falsely and then released or mistakenly. So what I would always urge lodges and camps is give us your availability, let us see what's available, even if you don't want to open that up to reservations. Currently, we don't, our system isn't linked up to make reservations, and currently we're not seeing the need for that. What we need is to get even more availability visible. And I think the reason for that is we want to keep a direct relationship for booking, and secondarily, we don't spend our time booking and releasing and booking and releasing. So we may well give someone half a dozen quotes using our availability, but then we'll only book once. So the incremental benefit of booking online for us is rather less than actually just the benefit of being able to see availability. And looking at what makes that work for us, what we need is a feed of live or semi-live data to enable us to book trips. Giving us a web link into your own window doesn't really work for us because we need to import that data into our system so we can see it in parallel to everything else that a client might be considering. So we need to see them next to one another. If we have to log into 10 different web portal windows to see availability for a trip, our team loses the will to live. It doesn't really work. So we're looking to import data. It is very helpful within that, and ResRequest supports this facility, which is really impressive and valuable. It is really helpful for us to be able to see provisional space booked as well. That will tell us that if those days are particularly valuable to us, but there's a provisional booking in the way, it's worth dropping an email to the lodge to say, hey, is this going to clear? And thus maybe keep a booking for the lodge that we might not have been able to give to it. So I'd really urge camps using ResRequest to enable us to see the availability with provisionals. It's as far as I know, it's never done any lodge any harm whatsoever, and it has done them an awful lot of good in bookings. When our team are putting together a tailor-made itinerary, they're aware of the efficiency issues, the speed issues, wanting to get something back to the client. And you've got to ask yourself, if you were sitting at a desk putting together a tailor-made and 20 places you could get instant availability for on your system, and another 2 places you had to send them an email or make them a phone call and wait 4 or 5 hours to get a response, which ones would you do first? The answer for most of my team is they will do first the best lodges for the clients, but if it's a straight toss-up, they'll take the ones they've got live availability for. So that is increasingly nudging business from us towards lodges that give us that data, and it's making lodges that don't give us that data a little bit harder to work with. I think they're just missing out a bit, those the ones who don't pass that data over. Just what are our frustrations was one of Jill's comments there. I think one of my key frustrations is good lodges and camps who are not connected with data, who don't give availability out. I don't think there's any, or indeed many, of ResRequest clients who are in that basket, but there are a lot of others, and I find that a shame, and that frustrates me a lot. I think another frustration of mine is when, as a specialist tour operator, we're lumped electronically with the OTAs, the online travel agents. These are very different animals. We spend our time promoting camps and itineraries in Africa. We spend hours on the phone talking to clients, advising them, and actively promoting trips to them so that they go to camps and lodges that suit them really well on great trips. Online travel agents, in my view, piggyback on the back of that for Africa and just try and sell things without giving any advice, without any help, without any linking together. And I think that many of ResRequest's lodges and camps are smaller and in more remote places, more interesting safari destinations. I don't think the OTAs are necessarily the right animal for that. You'll judge yourself, but I think it's not just a case of bums on seats there or bums in beds. It's a case of choosing the most appropriate client for the most appropriate place and making sure they know what they're coming to. And I find it very, very frustrating when lodges give, for example, OTAs data on what's available, but don't have systems which can give specialists like us the same data. And those lodges are losing out from us, there's no question about it. There's a number of people these days, and ResRequest clients are not, I think, normally among them. There's a number of camps and lodges who are on booking.com, give all their data there, so everybody can see on booking.com instantly what's available and what's not. But as a specialist operator, we can't get that data. So instantly, if I see a lodge taking that line, we soft pedal on that lodge, because otherwise we're starting behind the grid. We're starting at a disadvantage. So that's I think my main frustration with what's going on in the industry with lodges with OTAs. I think I think it was one of the earlier, was it Erica? Yeah, mentioned bar rates and the best available rates. This is quite a challenge for us. We're, as a specialist operator, I think we're pretty sophisticated on the technological side, but bar rates are a real challenge because the whole thrust of what we've been doing and getting availability in so we can make quick decisions on what's available and swiftly get quotes out to clients. If we've got to look up what the bar rate is on each of those properties, that slows us down again. So bar rates is a challenge. We work very well with a couple of specialists, with a couple of camps and lodges on ResRequest who group their rates into 2 or 3 different levels. And they say, okay, there's a low season, there's a mid-season, and there's a high. But we can sometimes make rooms available at the low season rate in our high season if we need to. That kind of structure works very well for us and is almost like a stepped version of bar. But an infinitely variable bar system is very challenging for us because it means that far from being automatic and fast and efficient in how we deal with our reservations, we've slightly got to go back to looking up every single lodge every single time, and we would prefer to avoid that. Hope that's been helpful. Let me hand here back over to Jill. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. That's very insightful that you kind of came at it from a different angle. She's going to give us even more of a slightly different spin on the connections from her involvement in providing a software solution for operators. Terry, have you got a headset in?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Are you're very loud, very loud.
Oh, no. Let me try. Is that a little bit better?
A bit more if you can.
How's about that?
Just hearing a lot of background noise and echo.
Yeah, sorry about that. It might be this headset that I'm using.
Okay, that's good. Great. Take us away.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, guys. So as mentioned, we're a technology provider. So unlike the other panelists that have spoken earlier today, our take on things is a little bit different. So just in the interest of time, I am just going to sort of focus, I think, on the biggest things from our side. So we don't specialize in availability or rates for bookings. We just help with the content management, presentation of information, but we completely understand of it, and that's why we support as much as possible our partners such as ResRequest that do provide these types of options to agents and also allow suppliers to put that kind of information forward. So for us, because we deal with technology a lot of time inside of the, sort of numbers is a big thing for us. So what's changed to make the online sales more important? Something that we've seen quite a lot and that we have noticed and that everyone has brought up is that customers expect everything at their fingertips, and technology in the travel industry has allowed more people to reach out and get more information than ever before. So they expect instant turnarounds, they expect lots of information, they expect lots of content because they can now find that anywhere. So a study that was done last year found that 148.3 million people now use the internet to make reservations for their accommodation, tours, and activities. So that was more than 57% of all reservations in travel last year were made online. So for us, that number alone proves why online sales are really important and why everyone needs to have that information available to them in order to compete. One of the other questions that I will answer is just why do travel agents need to see availability rates and make bookings? So like I said, even though this is not something that we provide, we partner with a number of systems that do this, is because we deal with a number of tour operators and DMCs and suppliers, and a lot of them supply their packages and their information to travel agents. And the biggest thing that we get is that if you want to give the majority of your business to agents, as we found that 51% of our tour operators globally are working with travel agents to resell their tours, so that's more than half of their revenue. They need to be able to give them every tool in their arsenal to sell that product as great as possible. And that's why we think that empowering agents, whether you're a supplier or whether you're a DMC or whether you're a tour operator, giving them that information and giving them that insight will help them get back. So like the other panelists said, that turnaround and that speed is critical to their success and getting them to make that conversion. And the more information that we can provide, the quicker and easier they can do and they can get back. So they can then spend time with the clients and they can spend time making sure that the client is actually getting what they need and not spending time and huge amounts of staff with being on the phone, trying to find availability, or going back and forth, trying to make provisional bookings or trying to find what's available. So that's why we think that those tools are really important. So Natasha, if you'll just go on to my slide. One of the very simple products that we've introduced in our itinerary builder is just a static live availability matrix. And this is linked to a number of availability providers, including ResRequest. So even though that this is a very simple indicator of what's available based on the dates that are entered in the itinerary, this feature is praised by so many of our clients. And for us, it was something that we sort of just slotted in. So even this, like you said, and like Chris mentioned as well, even just being able to see the availability and an accurate representation of that availability is super key. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys post in the Q&A afterwards.
Thanks very much, Terry. So next up is our customers. Unfortunately, US from Acilia was unable to make the webinar now due to connectivity issues. But we have Nicole from the Elawana collection with us. And she's going to respond to some questions that we asked her from a supplier's perspective. Okay, so we asked Nicole, what impact has using API connections had on your business? And what would you say to other suppliers who are unsure about working with connections? Over to you, Nicole.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Greetings from Arusha. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Nicole. If you can just keep your cursor off the slides as you're speaking. Thanks.
Sure. Okay, for those who are not familiar with Elawana, Elawana is a property group which we are holding 15 properties across Kenya and Tanzania. The biggest one being here in Arusha with 30 rooms, but most are bush-based and below 20 rooms or tents. That means currently, since the last 3 years, ResRequest has been babysitting around 90,000 room nights for us each year. There are, on average last year, 300 agents and DMCs booked with Elawana. So in case you're one of them who are listening, thank you very much for your support. What else is to say? Yes, majority of our clients, similar like previous people have mentioned, are B2B. So we have very few direct bookings. Our clients are local tour operators, DMCs based in Kenya, Tanzania, and South Africa. Of course, they generate the bookings overseas by overseas agents who live in different time zones. So ResConnect gives us the ability to give both local and international partners the possibility to access our rates and our inventory 24 hours, 7 days a week. What we have done in Awana over the last year, and I would say that we're still on a rollout with this, is we have opened our availability. There are 4 ways of doing that. One of them is that we have our availability on our website. Without logging in, you will see 2 rooms availability across all lodges. If you tell us who you are, if you get in touch with us, we'll give you an agent login. Depending if you're credit client or cash client, you will have a look option, which will show you the availability. If we agree on terms and conditions, we will also give you a look and book option. We have the possibility, thanks to the great development from ResRequest, to connect to tour plan, to several different softwares. And as everybody who works with ResRequest knows, the minute you have a business opportunity and you come across a new software that does not connect to ResRequest, they will help you get that up and running, which is always great. The last way that we use the APIs and that we connect is to the OTAs. So obviously, like I said before, we don't really have our revenue with the OTAs is marginal, but we do use it as a point of reference just to be present. It's basically a marketing tool more than a sales distribution channel. It's something that you need to be there. It's a lot of our agents and DMCs appreciate the fact that we're present, because people know that if they can't find you online, basically your camp doesn't exist. So if you have a presence on Expedia, we're quoting on rack, the agent comes back with a good rate, everybody's happy. So yeah, so we use where to. Thank you, Terry, for showing that screen. Afro Chic is one of our properties. We feed our live availability into where to. So if you're building an itinerary with where to, you will be able to do that with live availability from ResRequest from all our properties. This is basically our marketing side of the where to link. The other currently the ones that we are live with is API to Synexus, which links us up to GDS, IDS, and Amadeus. These are the American agents who are looking at us. They will come back, they will book with local DMCs, but they know that we're available. It's good for us to have the presence there. It makes sure that we're on the bucket list, and yeah, that's basically it. The fourth option that I want to mention is, of course, the agent login, which is the ResConnect Lite, as I call it. It's a possibility to just look live into the system, look what you're at. If you don't have a system that you're using, if you don't have an itinerary builder, it gives you the possibility to really check up with us, call our office, and make that booking. Drop an email outside of office hours. That's all available. Yes. The second question that came up was, what would you say to other suppliers who are unsure about working with connections? I think that ResRequest gives a very good option to choose how open or closed you want to keep your system. Basically, if you have ResConnect, it gives you the option to share your availability, your rates, process your reservations. If you decide, if you're not sure, if you're not comfortable with that, go for the light version, give them an availability check like Chris mentioned before. That alone will help already. Of course, on a lodge level, everybody wants to see availability, everybody wants to see the confirmed and provisionals. The problem being that the most important part, everybody wants to be able to book into your system and hold that booking. The problem being is nobody likes calling back and releasing the booking. So you, as a lodge with 12 rooms in some property, if you have made a booking, if you don't release your booking, we're really, really vulnerable. We have in our team 3 staff dedicated to the API agents. So we follow up, we clear, we make sure the bookings are in order. it is not something that you can do lightly. So besides a technology solution, you have to have the processes in place so your partners will be happy with the information that you give them, because access alone is not everything. You also make sure that you have the maintenance to follow up, to make sure that your charts are clean, your information is true. Yes, so if you're thinking of opening your availability via API, go for it. Choose the way, test first, try how far you can go, how your team can handle it, go slow, and the minute that you're confident that your processes are in place, you take the next step. And then agreements can be, what we do at Awana, we make agreements with partners. We don't have one solution and not one way forward. We go partner by partner and we have a certain standards of operational agreements that we have on how to release bookings, how to hold booking, how to cancel booking, so there's no misunderstanding and everybody's happy at the end of the day. That's basically the most important part to watch out for. Yeah, I'm happy to listen to any questions in the question session afterwards. Yeah, that's it from me.
Thanks very much, Nicole. Okay, so we're going to go over to our question time. I hope that it's been insightful to our listeners so far. We've received a few questions in the chat box, and I'm going to hand over to Jill, who will now facilitate this session.
Thanks, Tash, and thanks again to all the presenters. I think that was really insightful and so great to hear from both, obviously, buyers and suppliers there. Thanks, Nicole, some really good input from your side as well. Just some context about before we go into the Q&A, we actually, the reason we're having this webinar is because of a question. And it's a whole bunch of questions. We often have our customers asking us things like, why should I be giving my agent access? And specifically, why should I give them access to make bookings in my system? Or what is this provisional thing that the agents are asking for? What do I do if my agents don't have a system? And certainly listening in, everybody has addressed all of those questions that come up so often between our customers. So thank you so much for your contributions. Just to kick off, I'll start off with a question that Mary asked early on in the cycle, and it was during Erica's presentation. So Erica, if I may first pose the question to you, Mary was asking, how do you handle waitlisting in your system? And Erica, I would pose the question to you so that you can give us some feedback. I guess it came around when you were talking about, we make a lot of confirms and provisionals, and there's a lot of effort that goes around at a large level to go and fix those, convert those bookings or cancel them. So how do you handle waitlisting? Erica, if you're available, can you give us some feedback there?
Waitlisting is a challenge. We can handle a waitlisting in the system, but we generally would like to hold something confirmed. So it really depends on what the supplier conditions are if we're going to hold an alternative confirmed. We don't like to hold on to a room for someone else and then know that we're going to cancel it 2 months later, or perhaps they're in for cancellation penalties on the property that we are holding a confirmed. And I think particularly in high seas becomes really challenging. So if you're looking at Cape Town over New Year's Eve, you may have a wait list at a property, but in order to get them something confirmed, you're going to have to make some deposit commitment, or you're going to be liable for cancellation penalty. So yes, it's possible. Online is not really going to help you with that wait list. It's generally going to be a manual correspondence in the background with the supplier. But we do have to bear in mind that we have to hold some confirmed space for our client, and what are the implications there. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks very much, Erica. Just to let everyone know as well, from a a software perspective, obviously, if you give an agent access to ResRequest, they have the ability, and we have access controls placed into the system that when they make a booking, if they're exceeding the number of rooms available, they are prompted to put in a reason that they would request the rooms to motivate it, but the booking will be held automatically as a waitlisted booking. And then also that's available through the API. But please bear in mind that even if we support waitlists through our ResConnect, which is our API product, it doesn't necessarily mean that the buyer on the other side that is connecting to our API has opted to do that development. So we might support certain functionality in our API, but the connecting buyer who's done the development to our API might have said, look, we're not going to go there. Much like what you heard Chris say earlier on, at the moment they're doing availability lookups and rates lookups, but they're not actually connecting necessarily to making the booking because it doesn't make sense for their business model at this time, or their business model in general. So just so that you know that is a technology capability, but it is dependent on the developer to add that functionality. Moving on to the next question, which I think was well answered. Alex asked, and this was during also Erica's presentation, but I think Chris clarified it very clearly. Does it help for agents to see provisionals? And as you can hear from Chris, during his presentation, he mentioned this, but Chris, would you, does it actually help you to see and be able to toggle provisionals on and off in your availability lookups?
Yes, I'd say it does definitely, but it's a small proportion of the queries. If we only see when a room is either available or when it's blocked off, and the blocked off might be a provisional or a full booking, we look at it and we effectively then treat provisional bookings like confirmed ones. So if we're looking at a camp and it's full with provisionals, if you haven't allowed us to, if the lodge hasn't allowed us to see provisionals, all we see is it's full, and we would then try and find a different date or a different lodge. If, on the other hand, you've enabled the facility for us to see provisionals in your lodge, and we see that there's the camp is full of provisionals, if we've got a client who really, really wants those dates in that camp, then we will almost certainly drop an email to the camp and say, look, are they going to confirm what's happening? And you get into a dialogue. So by allowing us to see provisionals, that opens up a dialogue on those dates rather than just shutting us out. Jill, over to you.
Great, thanks, Chris. That's great. All right, and then the next question was from Linda, and I'll pick up on this question. Is there a notification when a booking is made by an agent into ResRequest? An email is not sent with that booking. That comes off of if you're using any of our Sorry, folks, I believe the sound was not very stable there, but just Linda's question was, is an email received automatically? An email isn't received automatically, but your request received module does obviously get updated, and the booking is reflected on your availability with an alert there as well, on that availability to indicate. So you would use your request received module to manage those incoming bookings. So they do get flagged and highlighted for your attention after logging into the system. I hope that helps you, Linda, just give some clarification. Then just the next question, Howard asked this question, and I'm going to open it first to Craig, and there might be a little bit of discussion that goes on here. There's different ways to answer this question, and Chris also sort of alluded to it. The question was, how do you deal with different rates for the same rooms? And tour plan, we've actually got, I think one of the screens actually showed quite easy on the tour plan side. Chris also mentioned that there's different clients that handle bar in slightly different ways in a version of bar, and they use ResRequest for that. Just to explain as well that with the electronic connections, rates are set up in ResRequest and then linked to your agent profile. When that agent logs on, they're able to look up that room type with any of the rates that has been negotiated with that agent. So for example, if you link an STO international rate, an STO resident rate, that agent will be able to look up both of those rates for that particular room. But I'm going to ask Craig just to perhaps explain to us in tour plan what that looks like. And I know we do have a screen that sort of shows on the tour plan side how that's displayed. So Craig, over to you.
Sure. Hi. First of all, in tour plan, just to give you a background, we always go and load our contracted rates. So before we even access any live availability, our contracted rates are loaded. So first prize, when we access with you directly, our contracted live rate should be exactly the same as we've loaded on the system. Sometimes this is not the case, and then we spend a lot of time coming through to properties and saying, please, you have not activated our STO rates, you need to activate them on the system. So that's the first headache we do get at times. The nice thing about tour plan is that we are able to see multiple rate categories. So you can push through our STO rate, you can push through a bar rate, and you can push through rack rate. We find specifically if you are opening up your channels on rack to OTAs, and you're giving them a commission back, they always seem to have availability, and at times we get closed out. So what happens within in South Africa with a lot of properties, they will close out STO, where we might let's call it get 30% off rack. And they'll make bar available, but we'll still be able to get 20% on that specific rate. So it allows us to carry on selling the property and not really to put a closeout on the property. So as long as your bar rate structure, if you're moving to that area, provides some sort of STO rate commission structure to us, we'll carry on selling it. Just to tell you a little bit more about tour plan, we are only able to hold and cancel a booking. We do not see any wait lists or provisionals. So unless you are going to oversell your property and make more inventory available, and the bigger properties will do that, we can only hold and cancel a booking. To answer your question. Bill?
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Craig. And we'll take one last question and then wrap up the session. Just a question by a couple of people, 2 questions regarding where to ask Terry to reply. Okay.
Jill was just saying that we'll on any other questions in a blog following this webinar, because we're conscious of the time and want to wrap up. So last question to Terry. Terry, did you hear the question?
Yes, I got the question. So 2 parts on that side. On the operator side, they are able to view it on any of our packages inside of our itinerary builder. So if you've got access to the itinerary builder, then you've got access to the availability. But on the supplier side, it is something that they have to opt into. So like with ResRequest, for example, if you're a supplier with ResRequest, you do explicitly need to opt into it, and we can then enable it. The same with most of the other partners on the availability side that we have connected to, that they have to opt into us showing the availability inside of our system, but there's no additional cost involved at all. So irrespective of package, whether you're on the operator or supplier side, we will enable that functionality for you.
Okay, good. Thanks very much, Terry, and everybody. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I just want to tell you how you can get connected for those that are wondering what's next. Here's TK, one of our connections crew, and many of you may know him. So all you need to do to get these connections set up is email us at support@resrequest.com. And one of our connections team will confirm all the setup details, such as the user permissions for connecting the connect. I believe I was okay. Sorry, I believe you lost me. Yeah, so permissions such as what rooms you want to show, what properties, what rates, commission, and payment plans. And the setup takes approximately 1 hour and is charged at our standard support rate. So we help you set it up in your ResRequest system, and then on our back end, we do the link. Some agents, as you heard from Chris, only have view functionality enabled. However, more and more operators are moving towards wanting to create bookings. So if they're able to create bookings, they'll request this access. So just be aware of that when you get the requests. It's up to you to decide on the permission you wish to grant. And we do encourage confirmed bookings to be held where possible. If you've got any questions about the process, drop us a line on the support email address. And yeah, we just hope that you found the session helpful and you'll continue to embrace this sales channel further. The recording will be available afterwards, and we'll write up a blog on this. And thanks all to the panelists for being present and to answering those questions. Thanks very much.
Great, thank you, everybody. And the recording will be available either directly from us here at Atta or via ResRequest. Thank you.